They thought humanity would break. They were wrong. We were just getting started. The stars had always been distant, cold, and silent, but now they seemed to watch with a knowing intensity. Captain Ayan Malik stood on the edge of Earth's orbital station, the hum of machinery beneath his boots resonating through him like a heartbeat. Nebula clouds swirled beyond the transparent hull in vivid streaks of violet and gold, illuminated by the glare of distant suns. He gripped the railing, feeling the familiar tightness of fear coil in his chest. Every mission, every calculation, every step humanity had taken into the galaxy had been measured, mocked, and dismissed by the Galactic Council. Yet here he was, on the precipice of what no human had faced before, alien ruins that pulsed with energy beyond comprehension. Ayan's eyes flicked over the station's deck, observing the small human crew going about their tasks. Lieutenant Mara Jin walked past, her hands gliding over the control panels with precision, though he could see the tension beneath her calm exterior. The Council had called Earth insignificant, a species bound by fragile biology and limited intellect. But Ayan had always known they underestimated humans. It wasn't strength that defined them. It was adaptability, unpredictability, and a stubborn refusal to surrender. Yet, standing here, confronted by alien technology that sang in strange frequencies and structures that defied physics, even Ayan felt doubt creep in. Could humans survive this? Could he? The station lights flickered as a shuttle docked with a resonant clang, shaking Ayan from his thoughts. The ship's hatch opened and Mara stepped out, her expression serious. "Captain, sensors are picking up unusual energy readings from the ruins on Narration 7, she said, her voice steady but laced with tension. "It's not dormant. Something's active." Ayan swallowed, feeling the anxiety spike. Every time he had thought humanity would fail, they had adapted, improvised, survived. Yet the sheer scale of these ruins, their alien resonance, made his chest tighten. He looked out toward the planet below, its surface fractured by enormous crystalline formations. Towers of alien architecture rose like jagged teeth from the ground, their edges shimmering in the nebula light. He could feel a faint vibration in the hull as the energy coursed through the planet. It wasn't a threat yet, but it had the potential to become one. He felt a flicker of fear, and with it, a sharper awareness of his own limitations. Humans had ingenuity. Yes, but against an intelligence older and more advanced than any they had encountered, would it be enough? Mara came closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You're not alone, Ayan. We'll figure it out. We always do." Her presence grounded him. Humans survived not because they were fearless, but because they faced fear and refused to yield. Ayan exhaled slowly, letting the tightness in his chest loosen, if only slightly. He had always believed courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was a decision to act in spite of it. The shuttle descended toward the planet, its thrusters sending crystalline dust into the thin atmosphere. The ruins below pulsed, casting bright reflections across the barren landscape. Ayan's boots crunched against the alien dust as they disembarked, the wind carrying a strange electric charge that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. Each crystal tower seemed to hum, vibrating with a rhythm that resonated deep in his chest. The Council emissaries, their forms translucent and flickering, arrived moments later, their voices like metallic whispers. "Why do you persist, humans? You will fail. You are insignificant." Ayan squared his shoulders. Fear gnawed at him, but he refused to show it. Humans had always survived by taking risks, by embracing the unknown. The ruins reacted to his presence, their glow intensifying. The energy around them seemed alive, almost aware, testing the intruders, as if mocking them for daring to step into their domain. He felt his pulse synchronized with the vibrations, a subtle rhythm emerging from chaos. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he remembered a childhood game on Earth, a game of patterns and timing. His instincts, honed through decades of survival, began to pick up the alien rhythm. For the first time, he realized something startling. These ruins were not invincible. They were puzzles, challenges, and humanity had always been good at solving the impossible. Mara glanced at him, noticing the flicker of recognition in his eyes. "You see it too," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Ayan nodded, feeling a surge of determination replace the fear. The Council had assumed they would fail. The ruins had assumed they were weak. Both were wrong. Humans survived not because they were strongest, fastest, or smartest. They survived because they refused to be predictable, because they thrived in uncertainty. And here, on the edge of an alien world filled with impossible architecture and crackling energy, Ion felt that same stubborn resilience ignite within him. This was only the beginning. The surface of Narration 7 was alive with alien energy. Every crystal tower thrummed with a pulse that seemed to match Ion Malik's own heartbeat, echoing through the barren plains like a warning. He and Lieutenant Mara Jin moved cautiously, boots crunching on crystalline dust, each step sending tiny sparks dancing across the ground. The sun's rays refracted through the towers, creating prisms of violent color, violet, gold, and green, casting long, shifting shadows that played tricks on the mind. Ion could feel a gnawing tension, a creeping doubt that whispered, "We are not meant to be here." The council's emissaries glided forward, their translucent forms twisting unnaturally as they observed every human motion. "You meddle in forces beyond your comprehension," one hissed, the words reverberating in the thin atmosphere. Mara's hand hovered over her sidearm, but Ion shook his head. They weren't meant to be stopped with weapons. Understanding came first. The energy surging through the ruins was alive, sentient almost, and each misstep could trigger disaster. Ion crouched by a jagged spire, studying its vibrations. The pulses formed a pattern, a sequence of high and low tones that seemed chaotic at first, but gradually, his mind recognized rhythm. "It's like music," he thought. "Like a game we learned as children on Earth. One wrong move and you fall, but if you listen, you can survive." Mara glanced at him, sensing the focus in his eyes. Humans had always thrived in uncertainty, turning fear into intuition, chaos into advantage. Yet even as confidence fled, another layer of dread settled over him. The alien intelligence here was clever, adaptive, relentless. Suddenly, a low hum rose from the ground beneath them. The towers vibrated violently, sending jagged shards of crystal spinning into the sky. Ion stumbled but caught himself, heart racing. The emissaries recoiled, their alien forms flickering. Mara grabbed his arm. "It's testing us." Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her calm exterior. They continued forward, each step more calculated than the last. As they reached the central plaza of the ruins, Ion noticed something disturbing. The energy wasn't just reactive, it was predictive. Structures shifted before they could react. Paths that seemed open moments ago now closed, forcing detours that led into narrow canyons between spires. Every instinct screamed danger, but he forced himself to breathe, to observe, to adapt. Humans had survived not by brute force, but by improvisation. The Council didn't understand that, and perhaps that was why humanity had lasted this long. Mara pointed to a crystalline bridge that arched high over a chasm. Pulsing energy ran along its surface like liquid light. "We crossed that, and we reached the central nexus," she said. "But it looks unstable." Ion's stomach knotted. Every instinct urged caution. Yet hesitation could be fatal. "We'll have to move together, time it with the pulses," he said, eyes scanning the rhythm of the light. Fear twisted inside him, sharp and relentless. "If we fail, we die. If we hesitate, we die." But hesitation was not an option for humans. The first step onto the bridge sent vibrations shivering through his body. He counted silently, coordinating with Mara, timing their movement with the oscillations of energy. The bridge responded, stabilizing under their weight. Ion felt a surge of exhilaration. Human instinct, precision, and courage converged into a moment of triumph. But the relief was fleeting. From the sky, dark forms emerged. Flying constructs, emissary drones shaped like jagged shards of crystal. They circled with predatory precision, their hum a low, mocking tone that resonated through the ruins. Mara fired a pulse at one, but it dissolved harmlessly into light before her eyes. The drones were immune to conventional tactics. Ion's mind raced. They think they control this battlefield. They think they can predict our moves. But humans thrived on unpredictability, on improvisation, on hope. As the drones descended, the crystalline towers responded, pulsing faster, throwing dangerous arcs of energy across the plaza. Mara's eyes widened. "Captain, we're trapped," she shouted, ducking under a shot of light. Ion's pulse thundered. Panic threatened to overwhelm him, but he clenched his fists and focused. Humans survived by sensing patterns in chaos, by turning fear into action. He closed his eyes for a moment, attuning himself to the rhythms of the crystals, the drones, even his own heartbeat. When he opened them, clarity surged. He directed Mara to move along specific paths, timing their movements with both the drone's patterns and the energy pulses. Step by step, leap by leap, they advanced. The alien constructs lunged, predicting his every move, but not his creativity. Ion took a sudden leap, sliding across the energy pulse's edge, narrowly avoiding a strike. Mara followed, amazed. Even the council emissaries, observing silently, recoiled at the audacity and precision of human improvisation. By the time they reached the central nexus, both were breathing heavily, muscles trembling from adrenaline. The nexus itself was a monolithic structure, pulsing with alien power, humming with an intelligence that had endured eons. Ion's chest heaved. Fear, doubt, and exhaustion collided, but beneath it all, a stubborn ember of hope burned brighter than any danger. Humans were not predictable. Humans were not weak. Humans were alive, and that, he realized, was a true threat to the Council and their constructs. For the first time, he understood the scale of the challenge ahead. The alien forces were formidable, but humanity's strength lay in something they could not calculate: adaptability, intuition, and a relentless will to survive. Ion looked at Mara, and she mirrored his understanding. They had crossed the first gauntlet, survived the first test, and awakened a realization that the Council could not comprehend. Humans were not fragile, they were unstoppable. The central nexus of Narration 7 radiated power, a pulsing heart of alien energy that seemed to breathe with a consciousness older than humanity itself. Captain Ion Malik stood at its base, absorbing the sight, feeling the vibrations travel up through his boots and into his chest. The Council emissaries hovered silently, their translucent forms shimmering, every movement precise and alien. Mara Jin scanned the surroundings, her hand still hovering near her sidearm, but her gaze betrayed tension that words could not capture. The human crew had advanced far, surviving the unpredictable patterns of the ruins, yet a sense of unease had settled over them like a storm cloud. The technician, Raoul, had been quiet during the journey, a man whose loyalty had never been questioned, whose competence had kept the team alive. But as Ion approached the nexus, he noticed Raoul's eyes flickered differently, a subtle hesitation, a glimmer of calculation. Before Ion could react, the control panels erupted with energy surges. Red warnings flashed as the nexus responded violently. Crystalline towers quivered, sending shards of light streaking across the plaza. Mara screamed as a shard whistled past her helmet, narrowly missing her shoulder. "Raoul!" Ion shouted, running toward the control console. His heart pounded, not just from fear, but from disbelief. The technician had overridden their careful settings, rerouting the energy in ways that could destroy everything. Mara grabbed his arm. "He's betraying us. The Council must have promised him power." Her voice trembled with fury and fear. Ion's mind raced. Humans had survived countless dangers, but betrayal from within, especially now, was a dagger sharper than any alien weapon. The nexus roared with energy, sending arcs of violet light dancing across the plaza. Ion's instincts screamed at him to act, but panic clawed at his mind. Every plan he had rehearsed, every rhythm he had memorized, was collapsing under the unpredictable chaos of human treachery. For a moment, he froze, paralyzed by the enormity of the danger. Mara's grip on his arm was firm, anchoring him. "You can do this. You have to," she said, her eyes burning with trust and expectation. Ion took a deep breath, feeling the fear twist in his gut like a living thing. Humans had survived not because they never faltered, but because they stood up when they did. He placed his hands on the control interface, feeling the hum of energy pulse through his fingers. He closed his eyes and attuned himself to the alien rhythms, the vibrations of the towers, the pattern of energy surges, even the chaotic interference caused by Raoul's sabotage. For a moment, the fear threatened to overwhelm him. Then clarity struck. The nexus responded not just to logic, but to intuition, to timing, to adaptability. He opened his eyes, focusing. Step by step, pulse by pulse, he began to redirect the energy surges. Shards of light arced harmlessly into the sky instead of the crew, the towers stabilizing under his command. Mara mirrored his movements, coordinating perfectly. The human crew moved with renewed precision, improvising when necessary, reacting to the unpredictable with instinctual brilliance. Even the council emissaries faltered, their surprise evident. Humans were meant to be fragile, predictable, insignificant. But here they were, alive, adapting in real time to chaos they could not control. Ra'al's face twisted in fury, his betrayal failing as Ion anticipated every move. The Nexus pulsed wildly, and in one final, desperate act, Ra'al attempted to channel the energy directly through the core, risking a catastrophic explosion. Ion lunged, rerouting the energy with sheer will, using the ruins' architecture to neutralize the surge. The resulting wave of force threw him backward, slamming him against a crystalline wall. Pain radiated through his body, and for a terrifying moment, the fear of failure threatened to drown him. Mara was at his side in an instant, pulling him upright. The plaza was littered with glowing shards and energy arcs, the air crackling with residual power. But the Nexus had stabilized. Ra'al lay incapacitated, his betrayal neutralized, and for the first time in hours, Ion allowed himself a ragged breath. His hands shook uncontrollably, his chest heaving. The enormity of what they had just survived pressed down on him. Fear, rage, exhaustion, and relief collided inside his chest, leaving him trembling and raw. He looked at Mara, seeing her reflection of exhaustion and pride. "We did it," she said softly, almost in disbelief. "We actually did it." Ion nodded, though words failed him. Humans had survived a threat that seemed designed to crush them, not just the alien mechanisms, but the treachery from within. They had adapted, improvised, and endured, turning chaos into triumph. For a moment, silence fell. The Nexus pulsed faintly, almost contemplative, as if acknowledging the resilience of these small, fragile beings. The council emissaries hovered nearby, their judgment replaced by incredulity. They had predicted every strategy, calculated every outcome, and yet they had failed to foresee the unpredictable force of human determination. Ion's thoughts turned inward, reflecting on the fear, doubt, and chaos they had endured. He realized that humans survived because they embraced uncertainty, because they turned fear into action, and because they refused to be predictable. Even in betrayal, even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity's strength lay not in power or precision alone, but in spirit. As he gazed at the alien towers, still trembling with residual energy, Ion felt a flicker of hope ignite. This was only the beginning. The true test was yet to come, but one fact had become undeniable. Humans were alive, and alive in ways the galaxy could neither predict nor control. The air above the central nexus shimmered with residual energy, casting prismatic reflections across the crystalline towers. Captain Ion Malik stood at the edge of the plaza, his chest heaving from exhaustion, eyes fixed on the massive, hulking alien constructs that now emerged from the horizon. The Council had arrived in force, massive warships and their towering emissaries, shimmering with translucent energy, all intent on erasing humanity before it could pose any further threat. The humans had survived the ruins, survived betrayal, but now they faced the galaxy itself. Mara Jin joined him, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. "We've made it this far," she said, voice steady despite the tension, "but now, it's do or die." Ion nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility crush him. Humanity had never had a grand fleet of alien ships, nor technology to match the Council's. What they did have was instinct, ingenuity, and a will that refused to break. He closed his eyes, letting his pulse synchronize with the faint vibrations of the Nexus. Every tower, every shard, every hum of energy seemed to resonate with his heartbeat. The Nexus responds to life, to spirit, to unpredictability, he realized. The first wave of alien attackers descended, massive constructs with glowing blades and pulsating energy shields. Humans scrambled for cover, but there was no traditional way to fight these beings. Mara fired a pulse cannon, but it dissolved harmlessly against a shield. Fear rose again, but Ion focused on the Nexus, feeling the rhythm of energy, the pattern of chaos itself. He had learned to read the ruins, to move with them rather than against them. And now, he understood. Humans could do more than survive. They could become part of the alien energy itself. "Captain, what are you doing?" Mara shouted as Ion stepped forward, palms outstretched, almost as if embracing the energy. He felt it respond, coiling around him like a living thing. Light surged through his veins, warmth and power flooding his limbs. The council emissaries hissed in alarm, their calculations failing to predict this. Humans were not supposed to channel energy. Humans were supposed to die. Ion focused, shaping the energy with intuition, improvisation, and sheer will. The alien constructs lunged, and Ion moved with them, bending the energy to shield his crew, deflecting attacks, and even redirecting blasts back toward the attackers. Mara followed his lead, her own movements synchronized, eyes wide with disbelief. The humans became a blow of motion, intertwined with the raw power of the Nexus. The constructs faltered, their strikes meeting nothing but shimmering waves of energy they could not comprehend. The council emissaries recoiled, realizing too late that this was no ordinary resistance. They were facing the living unpredictability of humanity itself, amplified by alien power. Raoul, the betrayer, now subdued and watching from the sidelines, muttered in awe, How is this possible?" Mara didn't answer, only glancing at Ion. He didn't need words. Humanity survived by refusing to fit patterns, by thriving in chaos, by turning fear into action. And now, that essence had become a force the galaxy could not predict or control. Energy surged outward, forming a protective dome around the humans. The alien constructs were lifted, thrown back, some shattered into fragments of crystal that scattered across the plaza. The council's warships hovered, stunned and powerless against a force they had never imagined. Ion's arms ached, his chest burned, yet he felt exhilaration. Humanity was alive, not merely surviving, but defining the rules of engagement in a way no alien intelligence had foreseen. Finally, the energy subsided, the Nexus quieting to a gentle hum. The plaza was littered with shattered constructs and glowing fragments of alien technology. Humans stood, breathing heavily, exhausted but unbroken. Ion's gaze swept over his crew, over Mara, and then upward to the council emissaries. He felt no anger, only resolve. Humanity was here to stay. Humanity had survived the impossible, and in doing so, they had redefined what survival meant. The emissaries retreated, their forms flickering, warships withdrawing. They had calculated every possibility, every potential outcome, but they had failed to account for unpredictability, for creativity, for hope. Humans had no advantage in technology, no fleet of massive warships, yet they had something far more dangerous: spirit. Mara approached, brushing dust from her uniform. "We did it," she whispered, eyes glistening. "We actually did it." Ion smiled faintly, exhaustion tugging at him. "We weren't meant to survive. That's exactly why we did." Humanity had always thrived where others expected failure. They had turned fear into courage, chaos into strategy, and betrayal into unity. As the twin suns of Narration 7 rose over the horizon, the nebulous sky shimmered with gold and violet light, reflecting in the crystalline towers like a promise. Ion and Mara stood side by side, surveying the ruins, the battlefield, and the quiet aftermath of victory. There was loss, there was exhaustion, but there was also hope. Humanity had faced annihilation, faced betrayal, faced the calculated might of a galaxy-spanning council, and had emerged alive, defiant, and unstoppable. "Captain," Mara said softly, voice trembling, "what now?" Ion turned his gaze toward the distant stars, their light refracted through the nebula clouds. "Now," he said, "we show the galaxy that humans aren't just survivors. We're the ones who rewrite the rules." And for the first time, the stars felt like ours. HFY Story Ku Structure Ku Hisab, say originally 4 chapters Kulia Design Kia Gaia Tha, Jismi Chapter Fumi Climax or Resolution Complete Ho Jata Hai. Aga AAP Chapter 5 Ad Kana Chato. Tiyek Epilogue Aftermath Galaxy-Wide Impact Type Chapter Ho Sakta Hai, Jo Humanity Kurais or Galactic Recognition Ko Dikai. Yan Hayek Cinematic Chapter 5, tilde 800 words, Idea Kusath. The council had retreated, but the galaxy was no longer the same. Humanity's survival on Narration 7 had rippled across star systems like an uncontainable shockwave. Captain Ayan Malik and Lieutenant Mara Jin returned to Earth's orbital station, greeted not with relief alone, but with a mixture of awe, curiosity, and quiet fear from other species. Holofeeds from distant worlds streamed images of the battle, energy patterns that no alien intelligence had thought possible, and the unmistakable figure of humans standing resilient amidst alien constructs. Ayan floated in the observation deck, staring at Earth below, a fragile blue marble amidst the vast dark. He remembered the fear that had gripped him in the ruins, the betrayal, the near-death experiences. But now, there was perspective. Humans survived because they were unpredictable, because they thrived on hope and creativity, and because they refused to surrender. Mara's presence beside him was grounding. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked, voice soft but uncertain. "They will," Ayan admitted. "But now they know we're not weak. They know they cannot control us. And that changes everything." His mind traced the events of Narration 7, the pulses of energy, the betrayal, the final surge of power he had channeled through the Nexus. Humanity had done more than survive. They had rewritten the rules of engagement in the galaxy, proving that the Council's calculations, their technology, their centuries of experience, could not anticipate the essence of human spirit. Below them, Earth spun silently, unknowing of the cosmic reputation its children now carried. In a matter of weeks, messages began arriving from distant systems, ambassadors from neutral planets seeking dialogue, allies who had feared the Council but now saw potential in humanity, traders and explorers eager to share knowledge with a species that had defied extinction. The galaxy had underestimated humans, and now every corner was paying attention. Ayan turned to Mara, eyes reflecting the soft light of Earth's oceans. "We changed their expectations," he said. "Not with fleets, not with weapons, but with something no alien force can calculate: unpredictability, courage, and determination." Mara nodded, her eyes glistening with emotion. "They'll remember this," she whispered. "Not just us, but every human who survived, every choice we made under impossible odds." The Council's emissaries, though withdrawn, remained vigilant. They watched from afar, their arrogance tempered by shock and respect. Humanity had become a wildcard, a species no algorithm could predict. Ayan knew that the true challenge was only beginning. Diplomacy, exploration, alliances, threats, they would come again. But for now, humans had shown what they were capable of when driven by survival, hope, and the refusal to break. In the days that followed, humanity began to rebuild. Research teams studied the Nexus, not to control it, but to understand it. Engineers and scientists worked alongside explorers and soldiers, learning, adapting, creating new ways to survive and thrive in the cosmos. Children aboard orbital stations played games inspired by Narration 7, unknowingly training themselves to think like the species that had defied annihilation. The galaxy's whispers of doubt had turned to admiration, and in some cases, fear. Humans were alive, and they were rising. Ayan stood once more on the observation deck, watching the sunrise over Earth's horizon. Mara joined him silently, the quiet hum of the station enveloping them. He reflected on the journey, on fear, betrayal, doubt, and triumph. Every moment of weakness had been a lesson. Every step forward had been a testament to resilience. Humanity had faced the impossible and survived, not because they were perfect, but because they were human. "The galaxy doesn't understand us," Ayan said finally, breaking the silence. "And that's our advantage. They can calculate weapons, fleets, strategies, but they cannot calculate unpredictability, imagination, or the will to survive. That will always be ours." Mara smiled faintly, hope and pride shining in her eyes. The stars beyond the observation deck glimmered, vast and eternal. And for the first time, humanity did not feel small. They were part of the cosmos now, alive and defiant. The galaxy had laughed at Earth, dismissed its species as fragile, and expected them to crumble. But humans had not just survived. They had awakened a presence that could not be ignored, a force defined not by dominance alone, but by courage, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit. As Ayan and Mara watched the nebulae swirl across the horizon, the knowledge settled in their hearts. Humanity's story was just beginning. The Council would return, other threats would rise, but one truth remained unshakable. Humans were alive, unstoppable, and impossible to predict. The galaxy had learned the first lesson, and there would be many more.